thank you everyone for joining. This is going to be the first of many webinars that we do. They're going to be kind of short and sweet. We know everybody's got a full-time job ahead of them, and we appreciate you making some time to spend with us and kind of go through this. Michelle, would you introduce yourself? I'll then introduce and kind of kick things off, and so we can kind of get going.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Graham. I'm with Click's marketing team. So I get to do a lot of fun webinars and events like this, talking to HR professionals. And it's my favorite part of my job. So super excited to be a part of this series and chat with Craig and answer any of your questions today.
Cool. Thanks, Michelle. I'm Craig Huntley. I have been in the human capital space in one way or another via technology or services for the past decade. So really excited to kind of dig into the role that automation can play in the employee journey, and specifically in the employee journey where those transitions happen from new hire to cross-boarding into a new role or department or location, and ultimately exiting the organization. Obviously, I skipped a few different steps there, but from a high-level standpoint, that's going to be kind of where we're looking at from a series. Today, we're going to start from a kind of logical first step in that employee journey. We're going to talk about preboarding and onboarding. So when somebody new is joining your organization. And quickly before we get into that, there might be some confusion around preboarding and onboarding. So I want to clear that up. From a preboarding standpoint, we look at that as the key activities that are done prior to day one, but are setting individuals up to be engaged, have a smooth experience, and be successful on day one. From there, we go into onboarding. For us, we talk about onboarding as day one and beyond. Day one, onboarding doesn't necessarily stop at first week, second week, day 30. And we look at onboarding as how do we make and ensure that a new hire understands and has the clear expectations of what's expected for them in their job, what success looks like, where are the tools they're going to need to enable them to be successful, and the resources to enable them to be successful in that role. So the key difference between the two, we'll start with preboarding. It'll be a short video. We'll kind of talk through the different steps. We'll take a little break, answer some questions, and then jump into the onboarding. Or then again, we'll do some questions and answers, but we'll get through it that way.
Awesome. Good deal. And I just made a comment, housekeeping. Please feel free to chime in with questions within the chat. We'll answer those after each of the demonstrations. And I will go ahead and share my screen.
And Michelle, while you do that, for the audience, we will share this out. We are recording this. We'll share this out with you afterwards. So no need to be jotting down, scrambling notes. We'll get them to you afterwards, but appreciate it. So cool. All right, Michelle, we're ready to roll.
All right, I'll hit play.
All right, cool. So look, we're initiating a preboarding workflow, excuse me. This can be initiated via an integration through an ATS or manually in our system, but it sends an email and a text to the new hire to begin this process and create their username and password. We're SOC 2, Type 2, and GDPR compliant. So no issues on the privacy. We want to make sure security is our number one focus. And this can be completed on any device. So any device with internet and a browser, we're going to be able to work through. That's the candidate dashboard that you can see. So you can't really skip ahead. You've got to run through a linear process here to make sure everything's completed. But we start with a video. Like I said earlier, we want to make sure that people are engaged, they're excited, you're reconfirming why they've joined the organization. So you're showing them things like, here are the values of the company, right? Continue to build that excitement and engagement. And similarly, you want to show them, here's how to follow us, here's how to stay apprised of all the latest goings on with the organization and how to stay in touch with us through social. But now there are going to be some data collection pieces that we need to capture as an employer on that new employee. So we'll start with shipping address. So when we ship them their equipment, their laptops, those things, we're going to the right address. We also want to capture emergency contact information. And really kind of anything else that you need as part of that employee profile. We want to start capturing this while we continue to build excitement and reconfirm the decision to join your organization, such as a swag order. So if you're going to send somebody a welcome kit with a backpack, a mug, and a t-shirt, what sizes, and then again, you have that shipping address ready to go. So we'll capture all of that information, keep them excited and invested in it. But then again, getting back into some of the things we're going to need. So you've got your e-signature, right? We have a proprietary e-signature, which allows us to capture signatures on any of the policies that you as an employer may have and need your new hires to sign off. And they can, again, do this on any device they need to.
Awesome. And now you can see here, we're getting into the I-9 process, where we're prompted to enter our address details and to complete page 1 of the I-9. You can see it's fully embedded here right in the platform. Very simple, easy, seamless, so you don't have to go out to another system. So just validating my information to submit here. Then section 2 and e-verify will be completed once I start. You can see per that e-signature Craig mentioned, I'm able to apply it right here within the step. I can go back into the document and actually save a file for my records. You can see me downloading a version here, but I can also come into the Click platform at any time to revisit that documentation. Here, just initiating the tax information, again, collecting my data, prompting me to fill out the various fields, and another opportunity to sign off on that information and validate all looks right. Here you can see it'll prompt me to complete all federal and state tax withholdings based on the information that I'm providing. So I personally tend to get really scared when it comes to I-9, W-4 e-verify, taxes, all that stuff. But you can see it's really straightforward and it prompts you throughout each of the steps here. Again, acknowledging sign off, the capability to download a file for your records, and just guiding you through the process, one question at a time.
Yep. The fun stuff of making sure that you're actually eligible for work and can get started on day 1, right?
Absolutely. The homework, as I know you like to call it, blended in here amongst the engagement activities. When I went through the onboarding at Clipboarding, I couldn't believe how quickly I was able to submit my tax information, I-9. I was convinced I did it wrong, but my hiring manager confirmed he saw it on the back end and all was good. And now here are some final, more engaging activities. We're getting a sign off on a tech and communication policy. You can upload any forms of your own for digital sign off, again, stored within the system for checking back at any point. We have a photo upload process, in this case for a badge upload, but you can collect any information, documentation within PDFs, images, you name it. A couple additional steps here, really just setting expectations for your new hires, ensuring that they feel prepared, comfortable coming into day 1, and they know, what to expect, what to wear, where to go. You can see we have this iOS feature functionality worked into the platform. And then again, an opportunity to share any content you want. In this case, just showcasing what they're going to be experiencing week 1. And finally, ending the workflow with a validation that they've completed their steps, and reaffirming that initial yes that they gave you during the recruiting process to ensure they're ready for day 1. All right, I'm going to stop my screen share. And thank you, Xavier called out in Q&A that the chat wasn't enabled. So I was able to turn that on. So thank you for validating. So please do feel free to send chats in here for any questions on that first pre-boarding workflow we went through. I did get one here separately in the Q&A, just pulling up around industries specifically. So Craig, we talked through some examples, generally speaking, for pre-boarding activities. Do you see any use cases that are more appropriate for activities to include for certain industries?
Yes. I mean, the reality is it kind of depends on what the organization is trying to achieve. So there are some manufacturing organizations we work with, and their sole goal is to move people through the process as quickly as they can. So they may actually pull out some of the experience, some of the value pieces, because they want, as I love to put it, and Michelle, you've heard it a million times, they'll want to get the homework done. I want to make sure that the new hire is eligible for work, has the paperwork done, and they can start tomorrow or as quickly as possible. So we want to move them through that as quickly as they can. Whereas there are some other use cases where it's, how do we, when there may be a month notice between offer accept and start date, how do we continue to build and maintain some level of engagement and excitement along the way? because many of us know that when you accept a job offer, you go through that kind of hiring period, you get really excited. There's a lot of engagement and excitement around this. You're getting calls from your hiring manager, from department leaders, from your recruiters saying, hey, we're excited to have you. Can't wait for you to start. You accept the offer, and all of a sudden you don't hear anything. So we can bridge that gap to maintain excitement and engagement as they start. So the answer is it kind of does depend on what we're trying to see, or solve, for the organization. But there are a lot of different use cases that this can work for.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. Another question that came in that I'd love to tackle actually is around what types of content can we put into the system. So as you saw Craig walking through some of those early steps within preboarding, we support all different types of content. Any multimedia asset that you want to import into the system, you're able to, whether that be PDF, image files, even videos you saw early on with a Vimeo or YouTube file that you can embed directly in the platform. We see a lot of our clients do that, introducing their executive leadership team, really reinforcing the culture, the mission, the vision. So it's all possible. And as you saw throughout, as you collect information from your candidates and share out files, those are all stored within the platform. So you can revisit and access at any time.
Yeah, that's a great, you raised something, Michelle, I wanted to mention. The media type and the medium of the content can be configured. We can support what clients have, and a lot of times it's repurposed, or it can be repurposed that from talent acquisition on your career site. What we didn't show, because we didn't jump into the back end, is we also support actions and tasks by the supporting team. So the HR, the recruiters, the hiring managers, we can actually provide nudges to them to reach out to those new hires as they're in that waiting period and say, hey, look, Craig, we're still really excited to have you. Like, any questions? It looks like you completed all of your stuff. It's providing them the nudges they need to kind of take the action they should be taking anyway, and typically want to take, they just don't know how or when.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, Craig. And another call out there related to a couple questions we got based on industry and content. Sure. We like to talk about the 3 C's for the Click platform, in that it's all about getting the content you need, the collection of data that you need, and then all in a compliant fashion. So it's delivering whatever makes sense for your new hires and your employees based on where they're at in their journey. And you can do that through a number of ways, through our text editor, our video uploader, and any content format, as you saw here.
Yep, that's right.
Awesome.
And it looks like, Michelle, there's one more question here about integration. So there is you hit the nail on the head with what do we do with the employee personal file, right? You have a system of record in an HRIS, a Workday, a UKG, whatever the case may be. And what we do is we actually take triggers out of the ATS to build this employee profile in our system, and ultimately build the integration so that we can push that employee profile into your HRIS system or system of record if you're using something else. The goal is to enrich the data in the employee profile in a very smooth and efficient process that then lands in your system of record.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. And thanks for catching that, Craig. I think that's all at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and get sharing for our next workflow on the onboarding process.
All right, cool. So while Michelle pulls that up, just a reminder, we're making the assumption, or this is at day 1. So the individual has started and joined the organization and is now being invited into completing another few steps on a workflow to make sure they're going to be successful in their journey. Go ahead, Michelle.
Awesome.
All right. So like the last one, an email or a text is going to notify them that, hey, there's a new workflow for them to log in and complete. Because they already have a user, all they have to do is log back into their system. And then you'll see here kind of an abbreviated candidate or new hire dashboard for them to log in and complete. First, we want to say, hey, congrats. You've completed day 1. You did it. We're excited for it to have you here. And there are going to be a couple things here we want to introduce you to now, like building connections to make sure you're successful moving forward. So we're doing things like building out buddy programs for new hires so that they have people to, ask questions to that they may be a bit afraid or embarrassed to ask their manager. But also we can build things like mentorship programs in the system if it's a little bit later in their employee transition or employee journey. We want to set them up so that they know, really who's on their team. How do I get a hold of them? Remind me who's who, what do they do? Who am I going to need to reach out to? Maybe even cross-functionally, it can be challenging to figure out the right person to talk to. And similarly, you look at your resources. When you join a new organization, there's an entire tech stack that you're trying to figure out what to do with, what each thing's used, what's stored where. So we want to serve that up to them front and center, let them go back to it anytime they need to.
Awesome. And you can see here as well, the last step is calling out employee benefits. So again, setting expectations on what's included, including links to the platform for them to go ahead and submit, and really just sharing all different types of resources that communicate your culture and how they can get involved in the organization, right? ERGs, ensuring they have a sense of belonging, sharing appropriate contact information for different functions, right? We hear a lot, people just don't know how to navigate the organization. So sharing that information early and often is critical. And also reminding them to bookmark the platform to come back at any time to have immediate access to those resources. It's meant to be their source of truth moving forward. And you can see here at any time they can revisit past activities they've completed. So right here in platform, you can see already the preboarding and onboarding activities that Jane just went through, that she can again come back to at any point.
Nice. Great. Well, thanks, Michelle. I think, one thing we want to just kind of caveat to really quick is, we are 17 minutes into this conversation. We've shown you 2 workflows. So we're kind of blowing through this really quick. And the intent is, we want to show you kind of some things that are capable, that we're capable of, or that you should be considering when you're looking at a preboarding and onboarding workflow. Obviously, what is specific to your organization may be a bit different than what we've shown you. And happy to have some conversations around, what you're seeing in your space, and how it relates to these 2 particular workflows.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. And very relevant question on that front, around the timeline for deploying an onboarding workflow. When should that go out? How long should it last? Obviously, we showed a general example. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, that is a tough one. I mean, the short answer is it kind of depends. And what I mean by that is it depends in the sense of what are you trying to achieve? So if the timeline, how long do things last, when to deploy, it's what's the goal? Is the goal engagement? Is the goal trying to impact drop off from offer accept to start? Is it trying to improve productivity from day 1 to day 30 to day 90? There are different levers to pull for different use cases or different results and business impact. If you're looking at how to get somebody started as quickly as you can, it's minimize the work and create a more efficient process. It's what we talked about earlier in setting up policies, for example, manufacturing. But if you're looking at building an engagement, you want to really build out meaningful interactions from the new hire to different individuals within the team, the manager, and set the expectations. It may take longer to design that. Where they do that in their process may change depending on your orientation and your training. So, that is something we have digital transformation specialists, and their job is to really define this with our clients and say, hey, look, this is where it makes sense. This is why it makes sense to do it here, based on your situation.
Love it. Thanks, Craig. And I like that question, obviously, at the start. When you define the different workflows, I know you mentioned, preboarding is typically pre-day 1, whereas onboarding we often classify traditionally as that first 90 days. But it does depend. And we like to say, internally at Clickboarding, onboarding never does end, right? You're always retaining. You should always be engaging with your employees throughout their tenure at key milestones. And I know next time around, we'll talk about cross-boarding and one-time activities. So a little teaser at that, if you will. Another question here submitted, Craig. For those who have more manual processes today, paper oriented, there are a lot of steps included here, right? Within the homework engagement, what are some quick steps that should be automated within these onboarding workflows?
Some quick steps. Look, the answer is, like anything, what requires the least amount of work and has the most value. And I'm not trying to say that like dismissively. What I would look at and what I would recommend would be what has the most impact in terms of people that are affected in the process. So if you have a manual process today, there's somebody sending out policies and forms, right, to a new hire. The new hire, if they're like maybe me or Michelle, where our printers that we have don't work, they're out of ink, or we don't have one, we have to run down to Kinko's, get them printed out, sign them, read them, and et cetera, scan them back in at Kinko's, then email them. And in the meantime, there's probably somebody from an organization, from the new organization that we're joining, that's emailing us going, "Hey, Craig, can you please send these things? We keep reminding you, and I'm tired of tracking you down." And I have to tell them I didn't know the hours of Kinko's, and that's embarrassing. But the point is, we want to minimize the work required and improve the experience of the people that support these activities. So your HR team that's tracking down all these policies in a manual environment, but also the new hires. So, if you can sign all of your paperwork, complete all of it on your phone, a tablet, a computer, versus running around trying to get things printed, that's where I'd start. And then from there, you've got your building blocks. You've got the blocking and tackling, and you can then start building on the experience and the engagement and leveraging what you may already have from a talent acquisition and a career site standpoint.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. And we had another question come in here. Is there audit ability on the back end to ensure tasks are being completed? Very relevant.
Yeah, of course. So yes, there is. We've kind of dubbed this. We have essentially a Domino's tracker. So for those that are familiar with ordering Domino's or seeing the commercial, you've got kind of the stages of the process, right? And it tells you where they're at in the process. We have a very similar kind of spider web of activities that are completed, and it'll tell you what's been completed. You can actually click into it to see the information there, the signed document, the uploaded picture, the size t-shirt that they need for their swag order. And you can see what's left to be completed. And because we also are using due dates based on start dates, we can see it'll automatically remind the new hires that they need to go in via text and email, that they need to go back in and complete these steps for their new hire paperwork. So again, eliminating the HR person going, thumbing through the file to go, okay, I've got this, I don't have that, I need to send an email and make sure that they send that back. We want to eliminate that as much as we can, but we do have the ability to check and see what's in progress and send out automatic reminders to those individuals.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, I love that. It really helps reduce a lot of that noise and prevent that babysitting, right? Call it like it is. HR is often chasing around team members trying to collect information, and hiring managers. I've found, as I brought new team members into clickboarding, it's really awesome to get the alerts or nudges real time to understand where new hires are at in their journey. The system can remind them if they're behind schedule, and I can even, step in to troubleshoot if needed, because I have that alert right in front of me rather than going and digging to look for it. So it's meant to build accountability into the process, right? Because every team member, every stakeholder involved in onboarding typically has really good intent, but the follow through is difficult. So the technology here just enables them with the information readily available.
That's right.
I think that calls all questions for us here. Any final thoughts, Craig, before we close out? I know we got through a lot here in the last 24 minutes, but want to be mindful of everyone's time.
I guess I'll leave with this. It's, organizations, and like my experience, I said, I've been around the human capital and tech and services for a long time. And the conversation tends to go to what can I automate? And automation is king. Like if I can automate this and that, and I think there are a lot of times where we're trying to over automate. And the real purpose of this and why we're looking at this is we want to give people back time in their day to do the things that can't be automated. So if we can automate some of the more transactional activities in a new hire process, what time does that give back to your team in HR and talent acquisition and your hiring managers? And what can they do with that time? What are the high value tasks that they're pushing off by sending out reminder emails and doing an audit? Like what can we be doing instead of these transactional activities that provide your employees more meaningful interactions, that provide your business larger impact in terms of productivity, retention, things like that. So, that we're not trying to over automate everything. What we're trying to do is automate the things that can be, to give your team the time back in their day and the tools to go provide more value to the organization and more work on more impactful activities.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it better. Thanks, Craig. And again, we're just coming up on the end here. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. Like Craig mentioned, we will send out a copy of this recording. And please do feel free to share with your colleagues, team members. We'd love to have more of you on with us. And we appreciate you taking time out of your day. We know it's hard to do things and separate yourself for a little bit. So we appreciate it. And please do feel free to join us next time. Like Craig said, this is a series. So in 2 weeks from today, we're going to do another one on cross-boarding activities and one-time HR events. So we'd love to have you there.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And feel free to reach out anytime. We're here to help.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.